Hello dearies, I said that today on Facebook I would be doing Ghost Day, and I've been posting things about ghosts all day. I thought I would talk about different aspects of ghosts. One of the aspects of encountering ghosts, and one of the very first senses of yours to be dispatched in determining there are ghosts present, is the sense of touch and goosebumps. Piloerections, the technical term for goosebumps, I'm not going there. What piloerections are is a swelling of the skin around each follicle of hair. Question is, why do we do this? Some have gone by the way of evolution and said that in the past, when we were very hairy creatures, it was important for our hairs to raise, to intimidate and look bigger. You know, sort of like a dog does. You know, the hairs on the back of its back raise when it's upset. That could be one explanation. It doesn't sound very much like primates, but it's an explanation. Another explanation kind of actually ties into my theory about Bigfoot hair. Bigfoot hair, I believe, has sensory cells in it, and on human bodies only recently they discovered hairs that do have sensory cells in our ears and in our nose. The question is, were the hairs on our body at one point evolutionary in our progression of evolution, did they actually have sensory cells in the hairs on our body? And if they did, it would be important for those hairs to gather information. So, when we get goosebumps, are the hairs on our body actually gathering information from a source we don't quite understand, or what we like to call the psychic aspect of us? And yes, that's my belief. And if Bigfoot still has this, imagine what happens to them if these sensory cells in the hairs can tell changes in all sorts of things, from basic energy coming off of other animals, off of intention, off of weather changes, temperature changes, humidity, wind, anything. So that you're bringing in all of these different senses and having to have a brain that works quite rapidly in order to sort through it, make sense of it, determine is this threat or not threat. So the question becomes, did we at one time or other have hairs on our bodies that had sensory cells, and do we have a remnant of that, and that is the swelling that occurs around the hair follicles in order to start to elicit information from your hairs? So there's still a lot more to be determined about this, and a lot more work to be done on body hairs in order to determine if this is the scientific reason that we are able to have another sense, a sense of being watched, a sense of people's intent upon us, a sense of a presence being there or an energy, and the times when we get goosebumps for what we consider to be no reason. We're getting input from somewhere. Where is that input coming in, and how is our mind processing it? So there's a great deal of research to be done on this, and I hope somebody actually takes it seriously enough to consider doing some experiments to see what happens to our mind when we get goosebumps. What part of our brain is being activated? That's just part of ghostly encounters, the sense of being touched. Another thing that you'll find too is static electricity is another factor. If you've ever been dancing around on your carpet or something, okay, I dance and I have carpet, so I know. I'll be dancing on the carpet in my synthetic fabrics and my sneakers, and all of a sudden between my legs I can feel static. I can feel a sense of cushiness, and as if I'm being touched by something. And it's just the static between the legs actually making contact with each other. And no sparks ignite, but unless it's hip-hop music. But this is another thing to consider too, because a lot of us have that sense of either spider webs or being brushed against or our hair being touched, and it could be a factor of static electricity. So what I'm saying here is that everything has a scientific basis as far as us as these physical beings that we are, these mortal three-dimensional creatures that we are. We have our senses to help us, and sometimes we get information from another source. It's still of a scientific nature, because in some way this physical body has to live by the rules of science, so it is getting psychic information. How is it getting it? What senses do we have on our body that we may not be aware of yet? And that is something I seek to learn more about. As a psychic, I want to know, where am I getting this information from? And how am I processing it in my brain? So when it comes to encountering ghosts, I would say if it's a dry night, you may have quite a bit of the touching feelings, more than probably on a wet night. And also, you have to be aware that goosebumps might be, in fact, a sign that your body's trying to gather information of a different nature. And take it seriously. And also, I'd like to remind people that everybody interprets senses differently. So if you get goosebumps, it may mean that you're about to see something. And to the guy next to you, goosebumps could mean I'm about to be touched. So start to find correlations. When you get goosebumps, what's happening? What does happen? What does it precipitate? So you might actually start to learn to use that sense better and know what to be ready for. If you know that you're going to see something when you get goosebumps, you could be camera ready. So that's my instructions for tonight, just on sensory, on the sense of feel.